All right, welcome back to the Starfighter podcast. It is your host Dom, and I'm joined today by a very good friend and one of the best to play pop culture trivia here on the channel, Alex. How you going? How's it doing? How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. How are you, man? Nice to
Doing
be
good.
back.
Yes, it's been a while. Also, representing the show with the
Yep.
long sleeve. Very nice. Very nice.
Gotta keep it up.
Um, we have a special episode today. Obviously, talking about the Obi-Wan Kenobi finale, and I'm really excited to have you on the show and talk about it with you. Before we get into our discussion, if you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a like. Definitely, um, more than anything, join the conversation, whether it's live here in the chat or on the replay. We definitely want to hear your thoughts and any theories that you guys have going forward. We're going to talk about if there's going to be a season two. We'll talk about that towards the end. But yeah, let me just cue this up real quick. All right. So I haven't really heard much of your thoughts on the show. Oh, also, we did get to hang out recently in person. I will say that was a lot of fun.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
got to see you guys in Arizona. That was pretty cool. I got to play some retro games at Cobra Arcade. Pretty awesome place. Shout out to Cobra. But yeah, other than talking just briefly, um, maybe give me your general thoughts on the show, and I think we'll give like our overall opinion on the series as a whole towards the end. But general thoughts, and was this kind of what you expected the show to be, or was it a little bit different?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like you can definitely tell how Disney's latest Star Wars series have this formula of where they give you this nice beginning start, and then there's a little bit of filler in the middle that kind of like slows down the show, in my opinion. And then it's like at the last couple episodes it's gonna be a banger. It's gonna be
Yeah,
intense. So that's what I expected as far as just the formula, how they had it. What I wouldn't say I was disappointed because they did hit a lot of points that I wanted to be in the show. But I did expect a little bit more as far as like how Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have done with Boba Fett and Mandalorian. They've really like brought out from characters and stories from the Clone Wars era, really established that in live action. In this case, it was like almost I wanted more of that. I know they hinted that earlier in the show, and there was a lot of that, but I overall kind of wish that was more. There was more of that in this show, but otherwise, overall, I enjoyed it. It ended well. Everything so far as I think it's just really establishes who Darth Vader is as an evil guy.
yeah. Do
So,
you did you expect the story to be what it was?
um, in a way, no. And I'm actually glad because at first I'm thinking to myself, well, how is Obi-Wan gonna leave Tatooine? Because he's supposed to be there. Like, give me a good reason why he would leave. Like, and
Right.
so to know that, yeah, duh, Leia, his sister, she's also important. She's also Sith, or not Sith, Force sensitive. So
Yeah.
obviously she would be somewhat important for him to. So I think that was a good way to draw out a storyline for him.
Yeah, I do too. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mentioned last week on the show, it's not what I really expected, but I think that in the end it kind of worked out. Sometimes I felt like maybe it kind of spent a little bit too much time, um, with the story arc of Leia, and kind of like
Yeah.
she gets captured, he has to rescue her, she gets captured again, that sort of thing. Um, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of just like the struggle and like the internal struggle Obi-Wan was having with preparing to like
Mm-hmm.
face off against Vader. Um, but yeah, and we'll talk about that too. But
Yeah.
I think they could have gone in a couple different directions, but overall, I liked it, and yeah, what were you gonna say?
Well, yeah, and to go with that, because I know I haven't really talked to you about it for the past episodes, just the past episodes alone, to kind of go along with that. Leia's arc I feel maybe she didn't need to be in every single episode. I feel like the whole story of saving her got to the point um, where where they were basically, it was the episode where he was in the back to tank. He just got attacked by Darth Vader, and they saved him, and yet Leia got captured. That part didn't need to happen, in my opinion, because that was twice she got captured. She
Yeah,
just keeps getting captured. I feel like the second part where she got captured, she should have been with the rebels and just stayed there while he was getting healed somewhere else. And then that one whole episode that was kind of like a second kind of filler episode, we all know what I'm talking about, the one where they went to go save her in that little base. I wish they would have used that. And I think a lot of people, a lot of theorists, YouTubers have already talked about how that specific episode should have been just him in the back to tank, kind of like a Boba Fett style, where he's in the past. He's like reminiscing his history with Anakin. Then you can introduce the Clone War era in live action and just have all this kind of like him meditating on everything that's happened and why he's disconnected from the Force, why he is like as weak as he was. That to me is just one of the things I'm still a little bit picky on. I wish they would have done that instead, because I feel like it was just kind of like I said, just you see how the formula is, just a bunch of filler in the middle, and you know it's going to pay off in the end, but it's like you kind of want it to be like that throughout the whole thing.
yeah,
So,
and I would have liked to have seen more like training,
yeah.
because obviously he got his skills back, he got his strength back towards the end, and I mean, I don't think it was super abrupt. It, in a way, it felt just a little bit abrupt when he finally, gets back to, you know,
Full
being
peak.
Obi-Wan. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, being Obi-Wan. Actually, he becomes stronger than we've ever seen him, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but I I really thought that we were gonna get like more training with Qui-Gon. We didn't get any of that, but I mean, again, we'll get into it here in a
Yeah.
minute. But and I thought that maybe Yoda could be in one of the episodes too, either
I
over
and
communicator or in person.
I think it's like one of those things where you have to look at it as a whole, because in my mind, I'm thinking for Obi-Wan, it's for this one short series. 'Cause I don't know if they're gonna, and I know we're gonna talk about it later, but um, just overall, I only expected, and to not spoil anything yet, but I only expected one person to be in this show, another extra major character. However, they did introduce a second one that I was surprised, and I don't know why I was surprised, but I was surprised. So yeah, I know we'll
Yeah,
talk about it later, but yeah,
yeah. Why don't we just jump into
yeah.
our breakdown of episode 6, and we start out with our intro scene back on Tatooine, and Riva is looking for Owen. And I mean, people were kind of complaining about it a little bit, and I think it's valid. I mean,
Yeah,
she gets stabbed twice by him and by Vader, and she lives. It's a little bit weird, but
yeah.
there's some things you kind of just have to like accept and move on. With this show, and I think with Boba Fett, that happened a few times too. You just have to accept it and move on. You know what I mean?
And it's like I get it, because obviously she is not a favorite, but in all honesty, I mean the arc in itself is, if you look at it, it's a good story. She survived by Darth Vader. That was her motive. You understand that she saw who killed her, and
Hmm.
or almost killed her, and so she's after this guy. And then it's like now she wants to go back after Owen because you were the reason. Part of me is like, I get the story partially why she would go after Owen. You're the reason why this all happened in the first place, maybe for vendetta, like a revenge. But it's almost like,
Yeah,
why would you want to go back if you already feel this way? There's a lot of like open-ended things that leave it kind of confusing, sure, but otherwise, I think it's one of those things where, like you said, you just gotta accept it, you know. And
Yeah,
it's
I
like
took it like she was trying to get revenge because Anakin killed her family, basically the other
basically,
younglings.
yeah,
So she's thinking, maybe I'll kill his family, take that
right,
away from him. Eventually, he'll find out that he has kids.
yeah, and I feel like the way Darth Vader even initially had killed her in the second time he stabbed her, it was like taunting, like you weren't even a threat to me, but I'm just gonna do this. And then when Grand Inquisitor came and just like surprised us all, it was like almost like they were just taunting her. She was nothing. He already knew she was gonna do this all this time. So it's like, I guess instead of just to kill her outright, which he could have, but it's like he saw her that she was not motivated by just hatred of anything else. She knew who he was. So I
Hmm.
guess in a way that makes it different than like if anybody's played Fallen Order, where
I
he
just
killed,
finished it.
you
I just
finished
finished
it,
it though.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so you saw he just instantly killed an Inquisitor after he failed her. And so I feel like a lot of people relate to that. They think,
Uh-huh.
why didn't he treat her the same way he treated on? But it's like, this is a different story. Reva knows who Darth Vader is, and so in this way, it's almost as if like he's just gonna taunt her, kind of a thing. So to see her back and going after Owen and just finishing that arc, okay. And to see how it all plays out later, I mean, okay.
Yeah, I mean, watching it a second time,
Yeah.
I actually like how it ends with her story arc. And we'll get there. But yeah, so she's on Tatooine and looking for Owen, and then meanwhile, Vader is chasing down the rebels
Yep.
and firing at them. Their shields are going down, and Obi-Wan's trying to figure things out, and he says he's got to go and kind of like bring Vader to him, and draw Vader towards him and away from the rebels so that they can escape.
Yep.
And that all made sense, and he has to obviously talk to Leia because she's kind of throwing a fit. And I thought it was kind of a nice scene, Tala him giving her Tala's holster, her blaster holster. And I also like Tala's character too. I'll just say that. um, I I wouldn't have minded if she lived, because she's a pretty cool character.
She was, and it was funny because when we saw that scene, my wife's like, "How did that holster even survive?" She was holding it when she detonated that bomb.
Oh, did she? Wow,
So I'm like, I'm thinking,
that's
well,
funny.
yeah. So there's just obviously there's the little things like that, but it kind of made me
Yeah,
laugh, and but I was like, I don't know, they got it somehow. It's strong leather.
yeah,
It's made for
yeah.
it's so, but yeah, no, that was a cool scene, and to me, I was like thinking to myself, well, maybe that was her holster that you'll see her use, and it's cool because it adds like the whole series, in my opinion, like I was telling a lot of everybody who I watched it with, it just adds layers to what we already know. So when you watch the
Mhm.
original stuff, it just makes it more impactful. So that's what I really appreciate out of this show, regardless. You
Yeah,
know, so it's just really cool.
yeah. So I mean, we're building up to this big battle, right? And Vader.
Mm,
I also like this scene too, when Vader's trying to make a decision. Is he going to follow Obi-Wan, or is he gonna like keep going after the whole crew? And the Inquisitor is like, we can't just prioritize going after one lone Jedi. And Vader's like, he's not just any Jedi. And it's true too. And like, I've talked about this before because Obi-Wan's become like my favorite character over
hmm
the years. When I was younger, it was definitely Anakin, but Obi-Wan is like, he can be very underrated sometimes. Um, but especially now in this timeline that we're working with, like, he's the Jedi. And if you
Yeah.
think about it too, um, I mean, there are other Jedis around, obviously, and anyone who's watched Rebels, that show, Kanan and Ezra are around. And little spoiler for part of that episode, Ezra's arc, all of that stuff just pays off too. Again, I always say it, but it pays to watch those shows because it ties into things like this. At one point, Ezra he's trying to, you know go down the path of a Jedi and kind of like figure out how he's going to ultimately play a part in stopping the Empire. And he has it was either a Force vision, I think, from a holocron, or either a conversation with Yoda. But anyways, everything pointed to finding Obi-Wan. Like he was like the person to find, and ultimately would lead to finding the chosen one. You know what I mean? And so Obi-Wan's not like, he was never like the chosen one, but he's kind of like the person that bridges that gap from like just kind of like the lower tier Jedi maybe to like essentially helping mentor the chosen one, whether it was Luke at one time or Anakin, it eventually becomes again. But anyways, very underrated character, and at this point he's the Jedi. He's not just any Jedi. So Vader's like, we're going after him. And I wish I knew what planet that they landed on. I don't know if maybe some people have figured that out online, but I'll have to do more research about it. It was pretty cool.
It kind of looked like a planet from Rogue One.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know. I can't even remember the scene. It's been so long. I love that movie. It's been so long, but it did remind me of one of their planets. You'll have to check it out. But there is a planet that they land on.
The one where they go to when they go to kill Jin's dad on that first mission. Like that was.
It's a rainy, dark, and there's a bunch of rocks. It's kind of like that though.
It does look like that. So,
I don't know. I mean, maybe Vader's like, you know what? It's like wherever Kenobi was standing, I'm gonna plant. I'm gonna pee on it, basically.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know, but it was so cool. And even like the Inquisitor, I mean, I know those guys are supposed to hunt Jedi, and in my mind, I'm thinking, well, wouldn't you agree with Darth Vader to go after him regardless? But I mean, it is true. It's like these people are who they've also been hunting, and so it's they're always going back and forth. The Sith are trying to take each other over, even though they're working together. They're always pitting against each other. So it was cool. It was cool that he survived too, because I know that was already discussed, but it's just.
So he's in Rebels too.
That's what I was like. He's in Rebels. How is he dead?
Yeah.
So I haven't watched all of Rebels, but I know I need to finish it. And but I've watched YouTube snippet. I've spoiled it myself. Because I can't. Not just know stuff. So
yeah. For sure. But yeah, I mean, we can get into, I think, probably the climax of the entire episode. Is this final battle. This is like the battle that we've been waiting to see. And this is definitely the battle that Vader references in A New Hope, which he references them fighting. And again, he made the point that he was just the learner and Obi-Wan was the master, but now he's the master in A New Hope. But we knew that Obi-Wan was going to prevail here, but what do you think about this scene, man? I mean, we just gotta, I'm sure we're gonna spend a lot of time talking about it. The only issue, real quick, that I had is I felt like it could have built up just a little bit more. I felt like you kind of just like really jumped right into the battle, and I don't know, maybe there could have been a little more dialogue, I think. But anyways,
I mean, overall, no, it was great. I mean, I get it now because I'm always thinking of after episode 3 when they fight, Anakin and Obi-Wan, then you think to yourself, okay, the next time they see each other is in A New Hope. And this just adds to that. This fight is like, this is the one, because this is where he just knows who Darth Vader is. He knows he knows that Anakin is dead, that Darth Vader killed him, like him saying the line and all that. Which I'll get there, but basically the whole fight at the beginning was so cinematic. It was just so cool to see them going and saying their lines, I'll do what I must, and instead of saying you will try, he's like, you will die, then you will die. It's like, like adding to the point that he's not trying to stop him anymore. He's just going to kill him. And
I love this too, not to cut you off, but the classic pose.
The classic. I mean, McGregor stance.
When he does his battle stance, I'm like, it's on now. Mm-hmm. Like he's back.
The Warrior's back, and
Yeah.
really, and honestly, I mean, there's so much that you can say to kind of add to this. I think it's not. It's definitely not going to be kind of like how Revenge of the Sith's battle was, because that was the one that started it all. That was the one that made Darth Vader who he is, made Obi-Wan who he is now. And this point, this is just like them now understanding who's good and who's evil. And the only thing I wish was in this whole fight was John Williams' like score of Duel of the Fates, like just
Yeah.
that just getting more of
No, I
that.
thought we were gonna get it.
I thought we were gonna get it, but any Star Wars fan knows that like moves you into a cool, and that's like exclusively their battle music, and it's like music carries it, man. And it's just but overall, even if that wasn't there,
Duel of the Fates is the Phantom Menace song when he fights
or not that
Maul.
one, yeah, the
I
other
know,
one.
I know what you're thinking of, though.
What is that one? I can't even think of it, but you know what I'm talking about.
But the song that they used, I felt was kind of
it was still good,
and I felt like it was a little bit of a spin on the one from
and maybe it
Revenge
was,
of
and
the Sith.
I'll have to rewatch it and kind of listen to
Yeah,
it, because I mean, just to like when I watched, because I was watching like the old battle after I saw this one, I'm thinking, oh, like it's like I want to like compare, but it's like they're totally different. They're totally different battles, totally different ideas, and so in this case, this one it hit great. It was like instantly. I can tell where it's like he just like give me my ship, go, and he just does it. But it's like I understand too, as a show, it's not like a movie where it's leading up all this to that. I mean, if you binge it, I'm sure you'll get that feeling where it's like, okay, here it is. But no, I mean, I think it started well. It looked cool starting out well, seeing the stance, seeing their quips to each other, and once they fought, like seeing Darth Vader before he was like fighting Reva and fighting him where it's just one handed and using the Force. Now here comes Obi-Wan, warrior coming at him, and he knows, okay, now Darth Vader's holding his lightsaber with two hands, and he's like, oh no.
yeah.
Now he has to fight, and that was just probably the coolest, because this is the quickest time you'll ever see, not quickest, but this is the most coolest you'll ever see Darth Vader so far battle. Because usually he's like, but now he's just using everything he's got.
And I liked it too because he was faster also.
Yeah.
Because obviously, back in the day with A New Hope, they're a lot limited. Yeah.
Yeah.
Much more stale. But with technology and choreography now, just the overall advancement, like it's really come a long way. And also, it's just great to have. And I think you can tell that Hayden Christensen is in the suit.
He's in the suit. Yeah, he's definitely in the suit.
Yeah.
Because it's just
you see the chemistry again.
Yeah, it's like the actors even know how they should feel. These characters should fight against each other, and it's so cool to see Hayden in the suit. And now he's not fighting as Anakin; he's fighting as Darth Vader, and so it's much more aggressive. He's showing off how powerful he is with the Force. Like now, when he's about to hit that boulder on Darth Vader, he was like seeing how he's like, okay, you got your strength back. But then he like tosses that rock like, okay, it's nothing.
Yeah,
he's still powerful. But man, it was so cool to see their power, the raw power between each other. And even for like Obi-Wan, you can see how powerful he is with the Force as well. Obviously it's like, okay, where's the training? But I think in my mind, it's like, this is how a Jedi Master would use the Force, because he's a Jedi Master, and he's using that for. It's like you've never seen a Jedi really do it that way, and even in the prequels. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and he's like, I mean, he's one of two masters that survived. I think one of my favorite parts about the choreography and from Obi-Wan is when they go kind of back to back for a second. And then Obi-Wan kind of like turns around, like he spins and turns around, and he parries Anakin's lightsaber handle, like he pushes his lightsaber handle out of the way. It was really cool.
Cool. And like the part where cause I know we're kind of stepping over, but once he like slaps his hand, Darth Vader slaps his hand down on the ground and just like use the Force to destroy the ground under him. And of course, he's like thinking, he's holding everything on, and he thinks of Leia and how she helped him like gain his courage back using the Force and
Right.
everything like that.
After he buries him.
After he buries him,
Yeah.
real quick, I wish he would have. You know what I'm going to say, but as soon as he buried him and he was looking down at him, I wish he would have said one thing to Obi-Wan.
The high ground. Yeah,
like,
I thought it was
no,
coming.
no. You should have said it. It's okay. It would have been in my mind that would have been too comical, but it still would have been cool to
You know what I
hear him
kind of
say
wish?
that.
You know what I kind of wish would have happened is I've talked about this before on the show too, because I always liked this, you know, parallel with the Phantom Menace fight and the Revenge of the Sith fight is when Anakin goes to, jump from that platform, from like that little hover platform to go and land and approach Obi-Wan. That's essentially the same technique that Obi-Wan uses on Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Only Obi-Wan was able to be successful because he was in control of his emotions and didn't let anger and rage get the best of him. And so I thought it would have been so cool if he was able to do it again this time. You know what I mean?
That would have been intense.
Yeah.
It's like it's and I think that's what always, like, that's why I think a lot of people who always complain about Star Wars fans, because they're never satisfied, but it's like we get so involved in like what they can and can't do, so that's it's like we're only doing that to ourselves. But otherwise, like, it was what we got. It was really cool. Like, I like the part where he comes in, and when he leaves after burying him, he thinks he's got him. But then he comes back, and when they're fighting, there was one shot where Obi-Wan comes in for the swing, but then here comes Darth Vader blocking it with the Force.
Yeah.
And then they do this little spin move.
Yeah, because of like the momentum of him getting pushed back, but then he knows to spin.
Yeah, and they're like so in uniform.
Yeah,
they're so in uniform
so
with each other. And it's cool because it's like almost like Obi-Wan knows his fighting style. Well, they do. They know each other's fighting style.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool. It's like they're, even in the episode 3, they were so on par with each other. Obviously, because master and student. So the fact that you still see that in this, it's just, it just adds to that fight, and I just love it. They're just like the best.
I mean, they really are. Like, they're so dedicated, as actors to doing those lightsaber fights, which is awesome. And yeah, I wanted to go back to what you said real quick when he's, buried under the rocks. And like we talked about before, it's not really what I expected to have, a lot of the show focus on Leia and like, Obi-Wan having to save her and everything. But it's moments like that when he's buried and when he's thinking about, or he's hearing Anakin, and then he's thinking about lines that he says, and then he sees Luke, and then he sees these moments that he's had with Leia over these last couple episodes. And like it's things like that I feel like make that whole plot, like, and story arc for Leia and Obi-Wan, it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It ties back into each other pretty nicely. Like that helps motivate him to get out of that situation.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where her arc still worked for that. Like, that paid off, because for him that was his hope, his way of getting through this whole thing, because it's crazy to think about, but it all revolves around their family, the Skywalker family, and those two, Luke and Leia, are the ones that can actually be, like he said, you guys are the future. In the very beginning, where he was about to leave, and he was like arguing with Leia to leave them in the first place, he's like, you guys are the future. He's like, and we've already talked, like, how you made that point, like, Obi-Wan is just such a cooler character now, because you see how he's been like the I don't know what they call it, not the messenger, but he's been like the one that's that little guy in the middle that has been going through each generation between Anakin and Luke and Leia. And so it's like, having all that being said, to know that that's what motivates him, because he's, saving her, and how she is, knowing that she is like Padme, she's like Anakin, and those two people he's been with for a long time in the Clone Wars, and to see that kind of push him to remember who you are, Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And he gets motivated to lift himself out of there. That's perfect. That makes sense why she would be there. So
Yeah, and kind of a side note, but along those same lines, I think one thing that also worked and Ewan McGregor did really well is like you could tell that when he had those moments with Leia, like he could see Padme, and like
yeah,
it was kind of like a callback to their friendship, and obviously he loved them both. And again, another thing that pays off from Clone Wars is Obi-Wan knows their whole secret. We find that out towards the end of Clone Wars, um, and like so he knew all about Anakin and Padme's relationship. He kept it a secret, um, and like yeah, you could just see that whenever he would talk to Leia, like he would see
yeah,
like you know
exactly.
he could see Padme, he could see Anakin in her, and it's kind of like I think the bigger picture overall is like she's like the good that still exists from Anakin. Like
Yeah,
that's because he can't get his friend back. Um,
no,
so he wants to like really protect his kids. Um, yeah.
right. And it just makes more sense how they are.
Uh-oh. I think we lost. Maybe we lost Alex for a second.
Sorry,
Oh,
the thing just cut
we're
off. No, it just makes more sense how things are with with how they get older, Leia and Luke, because Luke has always been a farm boy. He never really lived a life of how his father and mother were, in war, in diplomacy, and all these, politics, I should say, not diplomacy, but politics. And he lived a normal life. He got to live that life, and we'll kind of go in that in more detail. But with like Leia, she is in a life of politics where like how her mom Padme was, how her dad was in a war. So yeah, you can see more of that fleshed out of Leia as she was young, as a young
Mhm.
girl, than you would see how Luke would be, So
Yeah,
it's really cool on that end.
definitely. And then I want to talk about the ending of this battle. When he gets out, and he goes back. Also, Vader's walking back to his ship, but he can sense that Obi-Wan's um, coming up behind him, and um, they face off again. And from what I saw, it looked like when he starts to get the best of him, I think he was like smashing the hilt into his chest plate. Is that
Yeah,
what it was?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
He's like
but
breaking it.
yeah, which was cool, but also it kind of I think the way that this whole battle ends, it goes to show that Obi-Wan has what it takes to go up against the best of them. He has what it takes to take down Vader again. Uh, but he doesn't want to kill him. Like he won't
Yeah,
he won't land like that final hit. But he does eventually leave him for dead for the
yeah.
second time.
It's a testament though to how we kind of learned too in the very early on in the show how Obi-Wan thinks he even had a brother growing up, when he left. And I didn't know
Yeah.
that. When I saw that, I'm thinking, so this makes more sense why he feels so close with Anakin, because he was like, even in episode 3, he relates to him as his brother. And I think that's the one thing that he'll always, and that's why people are always, I see online, are complaining why he's so disconnected from the Force, but it's like he's been traumatized by losing not only everybody, his whole family of Jedi, the Council, everybody, but losing his one brother, being betrayed and having to fight him, And so this time to not kill him, and I can in my mind I'm thinking, well, maybe he knows he's not the one who should kill him. No, I don't think that's it, because I feel like because in the very very beginning, before he was about to fight him, he's like, kind of like praying to Qui-Gon, like, Master, I know one of us mind will die out of this. At the end of the day, this ends today.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like it wasn't because he knew he shouldn't be the one to kill Anakin, but it's like he sees that Anakin is dead, that Darth Vader killed him. But you know what? I'm not even going to get involved in this. You're gone. Like you said, I'm going to leave you for dead. He's more just betrayed and just sad that, you know what? I can't do it. Like internally, I just can't do it as a person and for you and who you are, who you represent to me. So I'm just going to walk away.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, shout out to Celicia.
Hey, it's my wife. Yo.
Yeah, and I mean, we gotta also talk about how he goes in for that last hit after he pushes him, and then he slashes his helmet. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of terrifying too.
Oh my god, I love it. I just love it.
Yeah.
I can't. I watched that. I go on YouTube. I go back on my Disney Plus, and I just keep watching that scene. I've watched that scene like over 20 times now.
Yeah.
It's just, even like my wife Celicia, who we just saw, she's not really big on Star Wars, like the original stuff, but like to understand his story, to understand Anakin's story, this just adds the more sadness about Anakin and who he is. And about Darth Vader, it's like, this guy is not him anymore. This is a totally different person. When it comes to the Sith, they're done. They kill. That's like your inner demons coming out and just taking over.
Yeah. And I think this was like, honestly, I did a little reaction after I watched it. But I said, I think this may have been Ewan McGregor at his best performance in this at the conclusion of this battle with this dialogue. I mean, I want to talk to you about it. It was heartbreaking to me when he apologizes to him for everything. I was like, oh, come on.
Oh yeah, I shed a few tears on that.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, but then it's so good too, and it's great to have Anakin have good lines.
Seriously, like I think that's even what that my wife can agree with. Because when you watch the old stuff, because it was hard for Lisa to watch that, but that's what she likes about this new modern day Star Wars, even Mandalorian, Boba Fett. It's like modernized. It's more like the lines are a lot more not George Lucas-y.
Right.
And so it hits home. It hits a lot of notes. You still get the impact, and like the way Ewan McGregor was just, you can see the tears coming in, and the way he was conveying his apologies. Like when we compare that to how he was in episode 3, like I know he was more like adrenaline and all that, but he still had emotion, but you can tell this was more emotional than it was when he saw him like that. It was just, oh man, it was sad.
So good. And then he tells him that I'm not your failure and that you're not the one that killed Anakin Skywalker. I am.
Yeah. And to hear him in the voice be going back and forth between Anakin and Darth Vader, perfect. It gave me goosebumps. I was like, oh my god! And me and my dad were watching it.
Yeah.
And his jaw was just down the whole time. He was just like,
I can totally picture that.
Oh my god, man! it was perfect. It gives you chills. And then when he's yelling at Obi-Wan, when he's yelling his name, just how evil and when you see from the blue and the way he had the pictures, it was like at first when he was telling him, I'm not your failure. You're Obi-Wan. Like he can it was almost like Anakin was kind of like in a sense of regret, a very hint of it though. He was very soft about it, and he was like, "I'm not your failure." Kind of like we're letting him know, don't apologize, because he still feels for Obi-Wan in a way. But then it wasn't until he said, he was still in there, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's all we need, But it wasn't until he said, I am, and then that's when you see the red just illuminate, and he just looks evil, man. He just, you just know that's not him anymore. Oh man, I love that. It still gives me I'm just it just gives so much chills. It just adds layers, and then when you think about how they'll meet again, and just It's just crazy.
I know, and for a second I thought that he was gonna get up, um, but then again, watching it the second time, it's like I mentioned. I mean, he took Vader down to his limit.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have anything else in him. He didn't have any more fight left in him, and so he essentially left him for dead. But of course, someone came and picked him up again, probably.
Yeah. Well, like, and even throughout the fight, you know, just seeing him, you know, when Obi-Wan got all those rocks and just chucked at him, and
Oh,
you
yeah, we didn't
know,
even talk about that.
yeah, pushing Darth Vader. I mean, no other Jedi, no other person can like just take him on like that. Usually they run away. You know, it only makes sense that Obi-Wan would be the one to take on Darth Vader because because he is his master. He is the one who trained him and is more powerful in a way is powerful. But you know, when they were fighting, there was a part where once he starts beating him down, he was getting wheezing again. Even Celicia was like, she started feeling bad for Darth Vader because it's like he's just angry, he's just mad, he's just you
Mhm.
know he's so far gone. But just to hear him suffering now, it's like ugh, and just seeing everything else that follows suit, it's just you feel bad for Darth Vader, and it's just those are the best. He's like one of the best well written character ever.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, I think in that moment too, when he's lifting all those rocks, like just goes to show you that he got to a point where he was just like even more powerful than probably than he was previously, um, since the last time that we saw him in action.
oh yeah. Well, and to me, it's like it. I feel like, and I know nobody will ever touch or ever want to relate about the sequels, those, but in my mind, I will now always say to myself, well, you know what? He was powerful enough to lift all his rocks. Well, it justifies why Rey could at least lift a bunch of rocks because Jedi can do that. You know, Jedi
Yeah,
are powerful enough to do
I
that,
guess
and so
that's one way of looking
I
at it.
to me, I don't know why. Obviously it came up in my mind because like when you see a Jedi doing certain things, then you start going back and you start thinking about everything else that happened after. And so it's just
Mhm.
you can't help but compare things.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the situation that's going on with Riva, and she goes to you know find Luke, and we get a little bit of screen time with Aunt Beru, which was cool.
Yeah.
Also, I have to say, um, I can't remember his first name, but the actor's last name is Edgerton. He plays Uncle Owen, and he's a great actor.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we don't get a whole lot from him, just a few moments here and there in some episodes. Um, but when Riva finds him and they start to fight for a minute, she says you must really love him, and think of him like he's your own. And Owen's like, he is my own.
Yeah.
And so I thought I like that, because it added more context to Owen's character too, and that that's going to translate over to the next time we watch episode 4, because um, I think it's kind of hard to tell what kind of a relationship that Luke and Owen had, because he was always just the guy that didn't want Luke to like go off and go on his own adventures and kind of like grow up. He just wanted him to stay on the farm. You know what I mean? But to
Right.
see how much that Owen like loves him and like feels like Luke is his own son, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. No,
And yeah,
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go.
Yeah, no, I liked the way they did it with their whole family because like it just gives their family unit their own little thing. He wants to just take care of his family, live a simple life, get away from all the craziness because he's seen what the Skywalker name has done to his family. We've seen he understands what happened to Anakin and everybody else that tie
Mhm.
into these characters with the Empire, with the wars, the Jedi, the Sith. So it's like he wants to just keep a simple life, get away from all that, and it does tie into how he was in A New Hope. Seeing Aunt Beru was cool, and just those two actors and actresses, they only got very little screen time in episode
Yeah.
3, but it's like it's
Mm.
cool to get both of them to get more screen time and to establish more who they were. But it's like Aunt Beru, man, she even in A New Hope, she's like that quiet. She's very nice. She's very lovable. But when she needs to go and act and move, she's like, all right, let's do this. It's like,
And
okay.
yeah, and they put up a
Let's
good
go.
fight against
Yeah.
Riva, but I guess too, it's kind of good. I think you can kind of tell that she's weak, because she got stabbed.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like you justify that. Yeah, she's near death because it's a killing blow almost. That should have been.
Right.
But it's like it's one of those things. 'Cause I remember somebody did a thing on TikTok on the YouTube Shorts thing, and somebody showed like where Darth Maul stabbed Qui-Gon. It's like, okay, so we're just gonna forget that stabbing doesn't kill you. But it's like when you look at where he got stabbed, first of all, it's like right in the middle. I think Darth Vader, if we're gonna be technical about it, technically stabbed her like right in the gut. You could survive that. But I don't know. I don't know what justifies a lightsaber stab.
Right. I mean, how much damage can Bacta get rid of?
Right. Well, and then like if we think of in Mandalorian and Boba Fett, I mean, what's her face, the bounty hunter who's she got shot in the belly.
Oh yeah.
And then they did some work on her, and she's alive. So I mean, that's another thing. It's like how quick do you get? And the fact that she has the Force, I'm sure that helps her. So I don't know. There's just a lot. But to justify what we're talking about, I mean, it makes sense why they can at least get an upper hand on her for a bit. But she still is powering both of them down, mowing her. When she goes through the door and then Emperor just like gives her a whack in the face, I was like, oh!
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my goodness. And Luke, he's running. That whole sequence though, and then her just yelling and going after him, I got a little worried. I mean, I know that he lives, but I was like, okay, at least you're giving me a little bit of tense, like feeling about the whole thing. It's not just, you're not leaving me with anything like, oh, well, I know they're gonna live. Not, I know I did that at the beginning, but it's like throughout, I'm still feeling that. I'm feeling, oh my god, like, this is intense. So,
right. And then Luke gets like knocked unconscious, and Reva she doesn't have she doesn't have it in herself to like to kill him, which is good. She's conflicted because she's fighting like these feelings, and I'm also curious too about how much the dark side plays into kind of like the Inquisitor's motivation, because they're not quite Sith.
No.
But I mean, they are tapping into the dark side, so it's kind of interesting. But what are
they
your
are like what specifically?
Like kind of like how much is like the dark side, playing a part in like telling her, no, you need to kill
Luke.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, if you think about it, and I like how they gauge this, because technically Inquisitors are Jedi, fallen Jedi, who've turned to the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a Sith Lord, is somebody who fully taps into the dark side, who becomes. And I think it's like when you add these Inquisitors, they are new territory. They're new characters that have been established in the new lore. And to me, in my mind, these characters are more just, they are confused Jedi, ex-Jedi, who are wanting to be part of the Sith. But because there's only a rule of 2, unless you take on Darth Vader, unless you take on the Emperor, you're not considered a full-on Sith.
Yeah, that's really cool way of looking at it. Mm-hmm.
And also, for Reva's case, because a lot of the other Inquisitors, they like even Grand Inquisitor, he's full on dark side. Like he's established in the dark side realm. But for Reva's case, she was still holding back because she was still holding on to her old self. She was still that little girl. And so to see herself being that little girl, are you going to end yourself? the way Anakin killed, the way Darth Vader killed Anakin.
Yeah.
And every time you see Darth, and that was so cool because after seeing the battle between Darth Vader and hearing that line come from him that he killed Anakin, and when you see that flashback and you see young Anakin again looking at Reva like, like, what are you gonna do now? It's like seeing him. That's not Anakin anymore. That's Darth Vader. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so in this way, Reva is gonna. Are you going to kill yourself the way Darth Vader killed Anakin? And will you fully embrace the dark side and not be Reva anymore? You're now this dark side person. You know what I mean? And I think that for me is what, to answer your question as far as, how much are they tapped in, I guess, to the dark side, is that's what leads them down that path. But they're not considered Sith yet unless they follow the rules too, and which they would have to go up against the two most powerful Sith, because those two are full on, they established themselves. So it's just because if you think about it, you have Darth Maul technically alive during this time period. But he's not a Sith, I mean, technically, but it's not, he's a rival compared to them. So that's what I would say. That's why I would say that she sees herself like that, because she is determining whether or not she's going to embrace that, but she doesn't. So
and then she, ultimately brings Luke back, and you could tell that Owen and Beru, and even it looks like even Obi-Wan is kind of worried too, like whether Luke's alive. And that played out good. And then Owen just looked completely disgusted at her when after he picks up Luke, and they realize he's not dead. He picks him up and kind of just like, what, you've got some serious problems, so we don't ever want to see you around here ever again.
Well, he's disgusted because it's like, it just shows too how much he's disgusted with the Jedi and the Sith as a whole.
Yeah,
he just hates them because of what they've done with his family, with Anakin and his mom. And so, I can totally get why it doesn't matter. He's like, I just hate these guys. I just hate this religion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and then Obi-Wan and Reva have that conversation too. What were your thoughts on this moment? Because this is the conclusion of her story arc and her development as a character, which has kind of been, a heavy topic online, especially when it comes to this show. Like, her character is talked about quite a bit, and for better or for worse. But what do you think about this scene and how it all plays out?
Yeah, I think it just establishes Obi-Wan as the center, the Jedi throughout this whole time, and he telling Reva, like, you've done the right thing. You've shown mercy, you've honored the ones who've fallen, because you didn't take that step like Darth Vader did. Mm-hmm. And when she was saying how, am I him? Am I like you're far from it. Because you did not do the one thing that Anakin did even before everything, what we saw throughout the show. Like, he was going all out. So it's just, to me, it was a nice little touch. I feel like, and I think that's why some people like, it's like Reva has such a 50-50 side on certain people, because I like the way they ended her arc. I like how things went. And whether or not they decide to use her later, you could make a little story if you want, whatever. But I feel like it's a nice way of freeing somebody from Darth Vader. It's a cool story like that. Her arc was pretty cool. Yeah, it was a little hard to stomach in the beginning, but it paid off in a way. It makes sense. It rhymed really well. And that's the whole thing about Star Wars. It's about poetry.
Yeah, exactly. And in my opinion, I think it would have worked too if she had died in episode 5, because it would have been like that tragic ending, but it would leave you, thinking a lot about what she had been through from Order 66, and then to have it come full circle, and then it ultimately ends up being Vader who kills her again. I think that still would have worked for the end of her character. And I was a little bit worried about where they were going to take her in this episode, because last week I said I just really don't want um I really don't want her character to overshadow Obi-Wan, which I think has been a worry for a lot of people with
Yeah.
the show. Um and um
Well,
yeah.
I agree. I didn't want her to overshadow it either. I wanted, more Obi-Wan story. I didn't need this other character, so to speak. And yeah, it would have been cool to get either way. I feel like maybe I would have been more satisfied if she would have been totally dead. Like it would have just been added more to how
Mhm.
crazy Darth Vader was. But at the same time, it's like I get it. It's still a good ending. They didn't make it so. They didn't end it in a way that I would have still hated her. They ended it in a way that I kind of do feel for her. Like I sympathize with her.
Yeah, because I I didn't want her to overshadow Obi-Wan. I also didn't want her to really come to his aid and have to help him out against Vader. You know what I mean? Um, I thought that would have been lame, and so I'm really glad that that didn't work, or that it didn't play out that way. And um, I thought it was good too for her to see her, kind of stay an antagonist for as long as she did. You know what I mean? Still like kind of go on that path, like
Yeah.
that darker path until the very end. Turn around, like it wasn't like she had a change of heart too soon. You know what I mean?
Right.
So overall, I thought it worked out okay.
It worked out the way I feel like it would have. It like I said, I would have rather her die. I think all of us would have. But if they were gonna end it, at least it wasn't too it didn't leave a sour taste in your mouth at the end of it. At the end of the day, it works in
Mhm,
my mind, and then it just adds more flavor to Obi-Wan's character. Sympathizing with her. So
definitely. So then, and we'll be, kind of wrapping things up here in about 10 minutes. But we get this pretty cool scene in Vader's castle, talking to Palpatine. And I definitely want to get your thoughts on this because I think this is one thing that makes you kind of think, like, is there going to be a season two? Because obviously Vader's still like so obsessed with tracking him down and defeating him. Um, but Palpatine kind of like sees like maybe he cares too much, and also I think Palpatine realizes too, um, which he knew even in Episode 3. He tells someone, like one of the clones or something, that Darth Vader's in trouble. Like he could sense that he was gonna be beaten by Obi-Wan, and I don't know. Maybe it was the Emperor that had to come and pick him up again. And we just didn't see it. But he's like, I think he just understands like you can't go up against this guy, and also, um, it's not just about him fighting him. It, he knows. I think he knows that he's conflicted, and that Anakin is still in there, and that his feelings go beyond hatred. Like he still does have some compassion for Obi-Wan deep inside.
yeah, and I think a side point is I think obviously I think Darth Vader got back into his ship and got back up because they were with his Star Destroyer. There. I don't know. Um, but yeah, so
Yeah.
seeing the Emperor again, that was one character I did not expect to see. It was funny because it's like, well, I don't know why I wasn't why I was somewhat surprised because he obviously exists in the universe,
Hmm.
but it's like we haven't seen him even in Rogue One. I don't think, but we haven't seen him in such a long time. So it's like that was such a cool surprise. But it's like to me, it's just a testament to how far the Emperor's willing to go to just erase Anakin, and it's sad because
Yeah.
it's so abusive.
Hmm.
So, but that's how the Sith are. But the way he's just so
Manipulative.
manipulative and trying to tell him, why are you trying to, why is your feeling so hard, on Obi-Wan? It's almost like he's saying, why are you still holding on to the past? I thought you were this Darth Vader. Shouldn't you just be moving on, looking at other important things? And you just see Darth Vader just like step back, and he's like, Kenobi's no longer means anything to me. I'm like, yeah, right. He means anything to you. Like, that's who you are. But that's what's so sad. If you think about it in like a real world sense, it's like the dark side, just him as Darth Vader, is such a drug in him that it's just taking himself over. It's like it's erasing all his past relationships. It's almost as if he was trying to be. It was almost as if he was trying to find Kenobi because he knows that if he can at least try to get to him, maybe he'll help him break free. But it's like no, you're locked in this cage. You're not going to go away. And don't worry about Obi-Wan. And it's like it's just crazy because it just disconnects him more from everything he's known, and just makes him more dark and just more evil, and just goes, his own separate way. So to me, it's more sad, that the Emperor would do more of that to him. But it's like that's what he would do, to him. So definitely. It was definitely it was crazy. Yeah. I was tripping.
And then we got to talk about Obi-Wan saying goodbye to Leia, and Bail even says, or Obi-Wan tells Bail that if they ever need anything again, they know where to find him. And then I really liked how Obi-Wan told Leia about qualities that she has from Padme and Anakin.
That was so cool.
That was definitely a nice moment. And then
to me, it's like right there when he was like, if I'll ever need you again, or stuff like that. It's like, okay, I think they're hinting a second season, because I know at first, this is supposed to be like a quick one season, nice, that kind of like tells you what happened. But obviously, we you could do more. But like I was telling like my wife and everybody, I'm like the Mandalorian, it's touching new territory. You can make it up. You can make up anything you want, because there's so much you can do. You can add lore to it. You can add all these cool characters, Luke, Ahsoka, and all these people. But it's like it's a new characters, new territory. But when you touch on something that impacts the movies, you only can go so far. And so I would like to see a second season, maybe to do more things outside of the realm, maybe to establish his relationship with Qui-Gon and how he becomes more aligned with the Force. But I mean, to go again with Darth Vader, you got to kind of limit that, because all this, he may not even be seeing him again in season 2. Maybe somebody totally different. But at least it'll establish more about himself. But it shouldn't go too far, because then you're gonna make the movies obsolete at this point.
And we can't forget. I totally called it. I think everyone kind of saw it coming, because obviously Luke has the Skyhopper in episode 4, but I was like, Obi-Wan's got to go back and give him that toy.
Give him that toy.
And then we get that classic line, "Hello there."
Hello there.
It was great. It was a great moment. And then he rides off, and I like that Owen allowed him to meet him, and kind of like,
well, it establishes him as Ben, because Luke knows him as Ben Kenobi. You're the guy that's who I see in town every now and then. So they would just have that cordial relationship. But
to close things out, we finally get to see Qui-Gon.
God.
Which I kept saying like every episode, I was like, they can't wait to the final episode to show him. He's got to show up before he fights Vader. But they waited. You know what? I'll take it, because he's also one of my other favorite characters. And it was a good moment. And then just kind of his demeanor and his attitude, like come on, we have a long ways to go. I feel like, and I said this in like my reaction video the other night, I feel like they were really smart the way that they ended this series, because they kind of have this balance between, it could go either way. It could be the conclusion of this series, or they could be leaving it open. Like you said, to see what happens next with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon having training.
Because you could totally make good stories if you wanted to. And you don't have to have all the major characters. You could still have the smaller characters and maybe add other characters throughout the show. There's so many. But yeah, to see him as Qui-Gon, because we were looking, I think it was like 2006 when Phantom Menace came out. Or not 2006. It was earlier. No, 1999. I have to look it up. But for those who don't watch like the Clone Wars series, and obviously we've seen Qui-Gon before in animated versions, but to see him live action, to see Liam Neeson take on the role again, it's like it's been that long since we've seen him as Qui-Gon. So it was such a treat. And yeah, I mean, there were so many times, like even in the beginning of the episode, where he was praying to Qui-Gon before he went to go fight. There was that little shot where he's sitting down, and there's like this big old gap, and I'm like, put Liam Neeson right there to come.
I know.
You have it. You have the moment. But it was so cool.
And I also, I mean, I liked how he said too, like, because Obi-Wan was like, I was beginning to think you'd never show up, and he's like, I've always been here. Just it took you a while to see, and I thought that was a nice moment too, because throughout part of the series too was Obi-Wan trying to get back in tune with the Force.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was now on peak, and it does. I would not be mad if they said no, we're good. We're not going to make another one, because it does end well. You could feel better. You could feel good about how things will go up to the New Hope. You already know things happen in Rebels. You already know there's new shows like Ahsoka and Andor coming out. Maybe they'll establish more of the lines of that. Who knows? But I feel like it's a good way to end it. I know Ewan McGregor's like, I want to do a season 2. I don't mind it. Just make sure we do a good job, not getting too ahead of ourselves. But it was good.
Yeah, I mean, that's how our episode wraps up, episode 6. And were there any final thoughts on the series as a whole?
Like I said in the beginning, I definitely enjoyed it. It was like, after seeing this, I felt great about the whole show. It's like watching, if you wanted to binge watch the whole thing, it's like 2 movies. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe I'll binge watch it one day, or just watch that part again when they're fighting, because it was such a cool cherry on top moment. But yeah, overall, I was pleased. I'd give this show a good 9 out of 10.
I think I'm right there between like 8.5 and 9 for sure.
Yeah, obviously a 10 would be removing all the little nitpicks, but otherwise it's still good.
Yeah, we can't have it all.
Yeah. Nothing can be perfect. You can always improve. Just be better.
Right. And it wasn't without its flaws, but I felt like when we needed it to, end on a high note, like it didn't really disappoint. Like it I think it stuck the landing in the end. And like accomplished what they wanted to, what they wanted to do. So
definitely,
I thought it was good. Well, all right. I think that's pretty much it for.
Covered it well.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it. I just want to go back and watch.
I can go on. I can go a whole hour or 2 just talking about every little thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I didn't get to talk about all the other stuff in the past because I have so much, but I mean, I think just this episode alone, though, it's just, I love that they're bringing all this new Star Wars content. I just hope that because they have a great thing going now. They have a great thing going now, and I want it to stay the way it is. So just don't get overly ambitious, because they were in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, we have Bad Batch, Andor,
Ahsoka,
and I mean, I can't wait. This is I don't know if you could see, but I've got the Darth Vader. It's the samurai. It's from Visions. Yeah, it's like their some of their concept art. But yeah, Vision season 2. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
A lot of new Star Wars stuff on the horizon, and yeah, excited for it. As far as the Starfighter podcast goes, we have more episodes coming out soon. Yeah, looks great, man. Um, and we'll probably be doing some more Marvel episodes here soon, and then we want to do some trivia nights again soon, and definitely want Alex and Sleazy to be a part of that again. Yeah,
I'll win again. I will.
I don't know if you watched the last episode, Alex, but my friend Anthony, he was on here for the first time, and I mean, he knows his Star Wars.
Oh,
He did amazing, actually. Especially on one question, it was name all the people who have wielded the dark saber, and he pretty much got all of them. And
considering I didn't watch Rebels, I know I would have lost.
yeah, he was pretty awesome.
Wow.
So yeah, we'll have to do more fun trivia nights here pretty soon. But yeah, thanks Alex for being on the show.
Thanks again for having me, man. It was fun.
Absolutely, bro. And thanks everyone for tuning in live as well on the replay. And you can definitely like, subscribe, drop us some comments. We'll get back to you. And you can follow us on the podcast feed, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. But until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Peace.